Let's say test, test. Let's say words, words, test, test. Words, words, test, test. Words, words. Hello, everyone. How are we all doing? Hoping very, very well. I am absolutely knackered, which you can probably tell by the way that I look. Absolutely. Sorry about that. Knackered. I've been doing quite a lot of DIY today. I've put the entire kitchen floor back together again because there was an issue with one of the tiles, but it was one of the tiles that was in the middle, which meant I had to take out all the tiles around it, and I had to take out all the tiles around those. So the kitchen, I just started again and did it from scratch, which was fun. And then I started building a wall unit, as I mentioned in the chat a minute ago, but we gotta talk about a cheeky little bit of football, because Leeds United have been linked with several players, most of them on the wing / in attacking areas. But we'll get into that. We'll get into the question that's been asked by Slink down here. Joe Tyler Blackburn. Not quite tiles. It was more like, you know when you're doing flooring and it comes in those like floor slabs? It was those that you just sort of like push into each other. It's just the issue is they're an absolute pain in the arse if you start going the wrong way. And I started going the wrong way. So I had to start over again. But let's start with the wing chat, because that's why we are here in the end. That's why I titled the stream what I did. And Leeds United currently have an eye on multiple different options to play in those wide areas. I'm going to go through them one by one, and I am going to start with the guy that has been mentioned quite a bit recently. That Leeds have a little bit of a sniff around. If I can find the guy, where is he? Where's he hiding? There we go. Nicolas Gonzalez, who is currently a player at Juventus. Click flooring. I don't fucking know, Dr. Cox. I'm 27. I don't know floor. I couldn't tell you. But Nicolas Gonzalez, currently a player at Juventus that has gotten a little bit of interest around him, and is one of those sort of interesting players that can play in the wide areas, can play inside, basically does the entire line. Can be a 10, can be a winger. Basically, what Daniel Farke asked for. I'm getting there, Dr. Cox. Jesus Christ, let's have a little bit of patience. Whilst Leeds United do have an interest in him, because we've seen how sort of good he is. Admittedly, if you look at the pure numbers, he's not the best footballer in the world. But if you have a little bit of a look deeper into stuff like playing style and his sort of approach to the game, he's someone that Leeds might have a little bit of an interest in. However, the main concern around Nicolas Gonzalez is there is also interest from a wide range of Italian clubs that will be battling Leeds United for his signature. I'm just going to get up the specific... Thank you for subscribing, Kaywood. Going to get up the specifics on it so I can sort of run through everything around him. Because a day ago, it was said that Juventus need to sell Nicolas Gonzalez to complete the signing of Zagrova, who is currently playing in the Liga. Other sides that are sort of having a sniff around do include Leeds United, but Atletico Madrid were reportedly having a little bit of an interest. There were, I believe, Fiorentina were in the conversation. I'm not 100% certain. It's a complex, unfun one, to be completely honest with you, because we're at the stage of the window where good targets are, admittedly, very good footballers. However, if you take a little bit of a deeper look, you end up going, oh, okay, you're good footballers, so everyone wants you, which makes things a little bit complicated. Italian football has no money. I firmly disagree. It's not Italian football that doesn't have money, it's French football that has no money. Thus far in the window already, Italian clubs have spent over €1 billion, which is, it's not low, to be fair. Like, admittedly, the Premier League has spent more than double that, which is nuts, let's be completely clear. But to say that Serie A is like a completely broke league feels like a completely, like, incorrect examination of the situation. Italian football has got money, it's just a question of who is going to use the money and who is going to use their prestige to get signings in. If it was a battle of pure cash, Leeds likely win a lot of these fights. Because Leeds hop in and go, we've got Premier League cash, we can chuck that at your wages, you will potentially earn the same as you're earning there, and we'll pay a nice transfer fee, and you'll play football. Which is, on its own, good. But then you've got various clubs that have Champions League football. So it gets a little bit confused. Slink is just going nuts over here right now. On the striker note, we have in this window signed 2 strikers. And I think screaming about injury record when one of them, yeah, sure, Calvert-Lewin has a fairly persistent injury record, but we'll be fine. I don't think striker is the most important thing we need right now. I think someone that is better at progressing the ball and creating the chances is what matters a little bit more, to be honest with you. And since the conversation seems to have popped up thanks to Stevie, let's cover the Manor Solomon stuff, right? So to say not Solomon, not ever, is a very, very big shout in my opinion. And it feels like a relatively, I don't want to say incorrect shout, because again, it's a matter of opinion, but it feels like a slightly misguided shout. Because a lot of people will look at that and go, well, he's not getting into the Spurs team, so he's not going to be good enough for Leeds. Or whatever, or point to injury record. His injury record last season wasn't too bad, to be fair. He missed a few matches here and there, but any player misses a few matches here and there. That's how that works. For me, the issue with Solomon is that he's a left winger. And the fact that he plays out on the left wing means that we don't hugely need that. If he can play effectively on the right, or if Okafor can have a go on the right and be that sort of James cover / replacement, brilliant, fantastic. But I think Solomon's sort of dedication to the left-hand side is what worries me. In terms of level, I think Manor Solomon is good enough. At the start of this window, when everybody was having a look at sort of the Leeds squad and the Leeds loanees and who would we get back in, everyone was saying Manor Solomon. Because if you have a look at how Manor Solomon did last season, Solomon FBref, let's have a quick look at the numbers, just to make sure that I am 100% not misleading or giving bad data or anything. There we go. Cool. If you have a look at these numbers, that's insanity. Every other game, you would get some form of goal involvement because he was on 0.63, not 0.63, sorry. Even better than that, 0.77 goal involvements per 90. Top 5% of players for assists, top 1% for expected assists, non-penalty expected goals and expected assists. He was in the top 2%. Admittedly, yes, everyone is going to say this now, right? Right, everyone's going to say it. That was in the Championship. I know, I'm aware, this isn't news to me. But when it comes to players jump... There we go, Telly. Thank you very much. You've proven the point. But when it comes to making the jump from Championship to Premier League, I think a lot of people over-egg that jump. A lot of people look at that and go, oh, well, I mean, playing well in the Championship, you're never going to do well in the Premier League. It's horseshit. The number of players that have made the jump very, very successfully is nuts. And this is also a guy that has played Champions League football, that has played in the Premier League before. If you have a look at, for example, Jorginho Rutter, Georgie had not as good numbers as this when he was in the Championship. Moves to the Premier League and is effectively Brighton's starter now. Admittedly, wasn't last week because he had a bit of a knock, but throughout the season you will see a lot of minutes for Brighton for Rutter. And Brighton are above us right now in the pecking order. We've got to be honest about that. So I think jumping in and saying, actually, yeah, we could do a Manor Solomon. The issue for me isn't performance, the issue is position on the pitch. Because I think in terms of that left wing spot, we're effectively covered. Because as was mentioned by Rich, I can't point sideways because I'm not in that position. We did just sign a left winger. Admittedly, Okafor can play on the left, can play on the right, can play in the middle. And I don't think Solomon has too many injury problems. I think that is a very, very harsh read because he had one very long injury. And then he came back from said injury and admittedly missed a few matches after that, but that's what happens in any injury recovery. And then had a really, really strong run towards the end of the season. Let's have a look at his last season, actually. Because you can say he had injury issues. There were only 7 games he didn't play last season. And we had several matches at the start of the season where Manor Solomon wasn't even in the squad. Because we hadn't signed him yet. So if we have a look, came in match week 4, which means that that's 3 match weeks before that where he just wasn't at Leeds United. So that drops us down to 4 where he was actually injured, which is here. And from this point onwards, he's just a mainstay. So to say that he's got long-term injury issues when, in fact, yeah, he got a little bit of a knock in pre-season, but for Leeds he had from October to May. In fact, he was fit in June. That's an 8-month run of being completely fine. and playing constant minutes because he was worthy of those minutes. And I think to jump in and go like, he's just not going to be good enough now, it feels a little bit reactionary, and it feels like looking for a reason that things are going to go wrong, and that's not the position that I'm in right now. I think we're going to head in a generally positive direction as a rule of thumb. I'm going to cover off the Mainoo stuff, because I think the Mainoo stuff needs to be discussed. Because not Leeds, Manchester United. Sorry, whenever I'm going into a sentence and I'm starting with the name of a club, I've gotten used to saying Leeds United. Whatever. But Kobbie Mainoo is potentially on sale at Manchester United. And I've seen a lot of discussion around sort of what his role could potentially be if he were to come to Leeds. And to be clear, we don't have any specific ideas on what the numbers would be. We don't have any ideas on like wage or the form of move, or even if Leeds have a firm interest. There's been team talk conversation, which again, team talk, very much not accurate a hell of a lot of the time. But team talk have said something along the lines of Leeds are potentially putting together a bid. And I think Mainoo isn't a bad option. Admittedly, like, a lot of people look at him and go, defensive midfielder. He's not strictly a defensive midfielder, because if you have a look at what he does, pass completion, very strong, but carries the ball more than average, takes opponents on more than average, more attacking penalty area touches than average, more received progressive passes than average. He's a key part of that progression. Like Rich says here, he's an 8 or a 10, not a 6. He's a ball carrier, which I think is potentially something that we could look at needing. Because when it comes to ball-carrying players, it's not bad to have more that are good at it. Telly, if you just keep shouting Evie while she's on holiday, I'm going to start thinking that you've got a slightly dodgy obsession. She's not in the country at the moment, therefore not here. And more goals than average, admittedly outperformed XG, but that's fine. And more expected assists than average, so players in front of him weren't finishing those chances. And I think he's one of those good progressive players that I think could really add a decent amount. Admittedly, he'll be a stupidly expensive player. And I'm going to see if I can put up his wages very quickly. Hold on. Took apology. Not Leeds. Them. This might take a moment to find him. And in terms of wages, he's not on tons at the moment. So if I just quickly bosh F11, you're looking at the entire list of Scum's sort of players that are on the books. All the way down here is Kobbie Mainoo, because he's on a contract that he signed 2 years ago before he properly broken through. 2 years left on that contract, 25 grand a week, which is a hell of a lot of money. Let's be completely clear about that. And he would look to get a bit of a wage boost. But I'll be honest, that still makes him relatively affordable. Like, a bit of a wage boost is still doable? I don't know. It's one that's interesting. It's one that is worth keeping an eye on. I've not heard a thing around, like, Leeds United are going to put in a bid or anything along those lines, but I think it's interesting to have a little bit of a discussion around it, because I think he's not a pure 10. But he's an 8 that focuses on the progressive side of the game, which I think is a pretty damn good addition. Heard 60 million, he wants 100k, and he's in the middle of contract talks with Scum. That's a good point. It could be a case of he's using contract talks as a means, he's using interest as a means of improving his standing in contract talks, getting the fans sort of rallied behind him kind of thing. But I think it's an interesting talking point to at least have an eye on, to go, is there a potential thing there? Because there's also a little bit of rumour that Scum need to get something moving for the sake of PSR, because they've done a hell of a lot of buying this season, and they've got nothing in. Which is not ideal for them. I don't know what would be talked about in terms of fee. I'll have a quick search and see if I can see anything on it. Kobbie Mainoo asking price. Okay, there's a range of sort of speculated goes. So the latest roughly seen asking price was in the sort of 50 million euros range, which is 42 million quid. Which is achievable. It's not one that I think we will go for. It's not one I think we will go for to be completely honest with you. I think we've got our eyes on other targets and other areas of the pitch are a little bit more important. But I think it's worth the discussion, at the very least. Oh, that was one. Isn't Harrison on 90 odd? He's on 90 flat, as far as I'm aware. 90 grand a week, which is still a lot of money. He's our highest paid player at the moment, and I wish he wasn't. But, yeah. For some big, I'm hoping it'll be on a striker. I'm going right winger as the most important sort of replacement. I'm going to run a very quick poll, actually. I want to see what you guys think. Most important position. Is it going to be a 9? Is it going to be a 10? Is it going to be a right winger? Because we don't really need a left winger. Or is it going to be other? And if you go with other, just shout it in the chat. So I kind of want to know. Is Uche to Wolves still off? I don't know. I've not seen anything on Uche today. Again, I've spent most of the day doing like wardrobes and cabinets and stuff. So I can't particularly help on that front. But I'm going to have a quick look. Gaddafi president called him during a broadcast of that to explain there's an agreement in principle. Tomorrow, if nothing happens, he'll go for a medical, and it's assumed that in a couple of days it'll be finalised. Getafe's top executive confirmed the sum will be just under 25 million. The player wants to leave. It's normal if the Premier League calls you at 22. It's a luxury. No one can deny you that. The president declared the club wants to thank you for managing to unblock the transfer fees in just 1 year. Today we can sell him for the sum. I want to thank him and tell the fans we're going to try not only to register players who are missing, but also sign some more. Right, okay. So it looks like that move is happening. Uche is moving away from wherever the hell he is, which is Getafe. But sort of interesting. Wolves have fallen through. Ah. Yeah, agent fees are sort of horrible. What was the... I think there was a new regulation coming out on agent fees. Football agent fees regulation. Sorry, I will find this. Offensive transfer agreements broken. How do you become one? In 2023, FIFA introduced a service fee cap for agents, but legal challenges from multiple countries led to it being suspended, with the argument being it violated competition law and was anti-competitive. FIFA proposed capping agent earnings at 10% of a transfer fee if they're representing the selling club and 5% if they're working for the buying club. Okay, it doesn't say what happens if you're representing the player, but it's quite hard to say. But either way, like, it's a complex one, I think. The agent fee stuff. Creator AM 810 or right winger. In fact, right. I'm gonna reword the poll. It looks like no one wants to go with other, so I'm gonna try again. I accept 6% of people. Sorry to the 6%, but I'm gonna restart the poll. Which is more important to you right now? And then we'll go striker or a creator. Let's simplify it down a bit. Striker or winger /10. I'm kind of curious. Does Melia move in the next few days? I think he moves somewhere. I don't know where he'll move to, because links have been sort of quiet on the outgoing players, which is weird, because like the last 2 seasons, we could get rid of players even if we didn't want to get rid of players. But now it's a little bit of a stinker. It's a little bit of a spooky one. The players that we got to move are not going. Pirro needs to move because he wasn't as quick for Premier League striker. I think it's harsh to judge Pirro after 2 games. I think it's harsh to overly judge anyone after 2 games. Like the amount of people that looked at the fact that Perry let in a bunch of goals against Arsenal and went, he's not a good enough goalkeeper. It's no. He's had 2 games, one of which was a clean sheet. Come on. Let's calm down a little bit. And that Saka one, as much as people are like, well, it was really close to him, it was also here. And it was fired at him within like a 1/5 of a second. How quickly can you get your arm up to here because your arm's got to go through the full arc of rotating? Like, that's not going to work. It's fine. The amount of people that were just scared of Perry was just like, no, we're okay. Elkin's move to Palace has collapsed. It has, and that is quite funny to me. Especially because is it Jeremy Pino that is that how you pronounce it, or is it Pino? I don't know. But Jeremy is instead finding his way to Palace for 50 million euros, something like that, which is significantly more than Elkanus. But it does leave Elkanus open. So if potentially there is a move on for below Elkanus, that'd be lovely, to be honest. And it could like clean things up a little bit. I'll have a quick look and see if I can find what's going on with Elkanus, because that'd be quite an interesting thing. Rob Dorset says that Crystal Palace deal for Elkanus has collapsed. Leicester no longer need to sell to satisfy PSR, having sold James Justin and Casey McAteer. Would now take £35 million to prize him away, and Palace won't pay that. Oh, that's a nightmare. Okay. So I'm reckoning the way that happened behind the scenes is the Elkanus deal collapsed. And then Palace moved on to Jeremy Pino. But the Pino news got out first. So it looks like because Palace have moved on to Pino, the door is open for Elkanus, but I don't think we pay 35 million quid. I don't think 35 million quid for Elkanus is a good deal. Because for the same price, Dylan Bakwa, they are the same cost. Where are we? We're not paying that stupid money they're wanting for him. Yeah, I think 35 million is a little bit steep for Elkanus. I've got to be completely honest with you. By a little bit, I mean very steep. At least needs to go in for him and send a player the other way in the deal plus cash. No, don't do that. Do this. Do it two separate deals because that's better for FFP. So many folks are like, yeah, well, if we send a player, then we don't have to spend as much. And it's like, sure, but if we send a player, we don't get the fee for that player, which means that doesn't go onto the PSR books. And it's quite good to have that money in the PSR books. So if it comes to it, if we do exchange a player to Leicester, let's say Meslier is an example. Mellier's not going to go to Leicester, but he's the example here. So you would sign Elkanus instead of for the 35, sign him for 40, and then sell them Meslier for 5. At that point, you have effectively paid 35, but that sort of 5 that you got for Meslier is something that you can extend a little bit through the use of amortization. That's the one. So, say you get Elkanus on a 5-year deal that comes out to 7 million a year. Therefore, on this year's PSR sheet, Elkanus only costs you 2 million, which is quite good and better than a swap deal because of the maths. Dibbling went to Everton 42 million. He did. That was sort of spooky and a reminder that, like, even the bottom end existing Premier League clubs, because they've been around for longer and had that income for longer and have had that bigger sort of PSR buffer for longer, it gets a lot harder for us to keep up with those kind of sums, which is a little bit spooky. I can't say it's getting back or BUK, to be honest, just too far down the pecking order. As in us or as in them? Are we getting Elkanus now? I've got no idea. I personally don't think so, given the fee that has been quoted. I think being £35 million would be insane. And they would... What the fuck? Sorry, I just... Hold on. What? Give me a second. If I can just... Why? Why? What? Why would they pay for... Who's signing Sam Greenwood for €4 million? What's going on? Huh? What have they seen? That's a massive win for us. Because I don't think he's worth that. If one of El Canoes, why don't we trigger his 24 million release clause? It's a big question mark as to whether that release clause existed in the first place now. It's incredibly confusing. But either way, I don't think El Canoes comes. I don't think anyone's interested in product at Leeds. Be interested to see what project is being sold here. At the moment, the project being sold will be long-term survival. It'll be, we're sticking around in the Premier League by building a very decent structure. And you can be a part of that structure is going to be the project that's sold. Also, the fact that, like, it's Premier League football and we want you. Like, Premier League football itself is a big selling point. We can't forget that. But thought Greenwood had great potential. I think Greenwood had okay potential. I think every highlight that we saw out of Sam Greenwood was from set-piece situations. And that kind of sort of... I don't want to be harsh, but I'm going to be. I think being a set-piece merchant isn't necessarily going to work in the modern game so well. Is JB still at Leeds? Could he be the 26th player due to youth? I don't know if Darko JB is young enough anymore. Darko JB is just about young enough, I think. So he can stick around. I think we'll find him a move. But I don't think JB sticks around next season, to be honest. Isn't that Polish team linked with Red Bull? I don't believe so. Pogon Szczecin. I think that's how you pronounce that, at least. I'm trying to find whatever I can, and I'm not seeing anything Red Bull flavoured around Pogon Szczecin. No, there's nothing that says that they're a Red Bull club. At least not that I can see. No, no idea. 4 mil, lovely jubbly, big PSR win. It's a massive PSR win. Like, that's a genuinely surprising fee. Because I wasn't convinced that we'd get 4 for Greenwood. Even a little bit. Wad Pros. Oh, it's not Pros anymore. Wad Pros, because he's not Wad Poetry. Put your money where your mouth is. Who do Leeds get in with 6 days to go? No, because I don't want to make completely uneducated guesses, and if I don't know what the probable answer is, I'm not going to take random stabs in the dark, because a lot of people will be like, Joe reckons we get this guy. And it's like, well, I don't have a particularly huge opinion on it, to be honest with you. I've just realised we've not talked Facundo Buonanotte. Buonanotte, I believe, Leeds have an eye on. The rumour is something like a £35 million-ish fee, €35 million fee, and it seems to be one that is advancing. I don't have a lot of time to talk about that one, I've got to be completely honest with you, but I have just seen that a Mr. Wayneman is discussing it over on his stream. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap my stream up in a moment. I'm going to throw everyone over in that direction to sort of have a little bit of a natter. But what we've learned today, Solomon, I don't think is the right profile for us right now. Nico Gonzalez, I don't know if we get because there's a lot of interest in him. Kobbie Mainoo would be an incredibly difficult one to get done. Sam Greenwood has been sold for €4 million, and there's a little bit of conversation around Facundo Buonanotte. But I'm going to leave that there. I'm going to get back to building kitchen units. Everyone, we're going to go over Kobbie Mainoo. Any truth? There's truth that Man United might be wanting rid of him, but there isn't necessarily truth within the Leeds side of things. It's a bit of a question mark. I'm going to head everyone over to Mr. Joe Wayneman, where we're all going to shout about cheese again. And yeah, it's going to be absolutely lovely. So, hope you all enjoyed. I'm going to get back to building things and doing DIY, and maybe I'll be in the chat over there. And I will see you all later. Toodaloo.